off that, Seth. Question for you now. Again, the 250 million Bitcoin were added to the long-term holder bag since the Terra fiasco. Are you DCAing in at this time, or are you sitting on the sidelines waiting for a better entry?
So first off, great to be back on the show, and I appreciate you asking me my opinion on any of this stuff. Like without offering any kind of financial advice, I've been talking about to my audience that this is a range that I'd be comfortable DCAing for a while. I've got a very clearly, it's a very broad range too. When you look at sort of the historical performance of Bitcoin and how basically year over year it's printed about 200% profits for anybody who's been a long-term hodler. It's fairly de-risked at this point when you look at Bitcoin like in a very, very zoomed out fashion. Anybody who told you, for example, like, oh, you got wrecked because you bought, $20,000 Bitcoin in 2017, clearly they're fine. Like, obviously, the numbers don't lie. The price performance has been good enough for Bitcoin that those people are doing okay. And on average, it's done about 200% year over year. So yeah, DCAing right now, I don't see a problem with that. DCAing, as it has a downward trend, yeah, but just like how Brad was mentioning before, keeping some dry powder for a good value buy here and there, especially if we potentially see a newer, like lower 20s or below $20,000 Bitcoin, which I still believe very strongly that we could see that below $20,000 Bitcoin price. Like no one has been able to tell me to my satisfaction a good reason that we can't see Bitcoin below $20,000. And I still think that there are interested parties in price, pushing price down, and then a couple other projects that may that are just interesting that are going to be launching during that time that can perform a bit of a liquidity vampire attack against the fresh capital that would go into Bitcoin. So yeah, DCA, not a bad plan. Yeah, just setting some dry powder aside for some value buys between now and whatever we see the bottom as in the near future. Also not a bad plan. And then, I mean, Bitcoin, it's also worth mentioning, is no longer the young spring chicken that it was before, right? Like it's not being courted by the elderly gentleman because of how like radically awesome the gains are. You're not going to see a 10x in Bitcoin in a 3-month period anytime soon. And if you do, like, there's some kind of like life-altering event that's a much bigger problem than the price of Bitcoin happening if we see that. So yeah, I think it's an unsexy, boring, like slow climb up if you dollar cost average into Bitcoin, but it's very de-risked and it's very, very hard currency. So you don't buy Bitcoin to get rich overnight. But yeah, DCA, sure.
There's going to be, there's the indictment that happened with the OpenSea guy. Now, obviously, that's going to go to court, and there may be a judgment happens there. Now, once there is court precedent, and there is a case, and they've got, some things guidelines that they can go by, are we going to see more indictments like this? Is this just the beginning for, this kind of regulation as far as the legal system goes within the crypto system?
Yeah, as far as it being sort of a canary in the coal mine, J-Chains, I think that there is a little bit, there's a lot to unpack here, right? Like it could go either way. If there isn't a judgment found, if there isn't legal precedent set in that way, then we have to wait till the next high profile case with the next big platform, whatever it is. Could be a Coinbase, could be a Gemini, could be any of the other platforms that have their own fiat off ramps and have their own curation teams and have a much larger payroll, and then have that kind of like sort of corporate entity, right? You need to have some kind of a structure that has something that resembles a face for legislators to go and metaphorically punch, right, with a charge like this in order for us to see the damage really take place. So if it doesn't happen in this case, then we're kind of twiddling our thumbs. Those of us who've been in the scene for a while or who've been covering these stories and paying attention to these large platforms for years now, we have to wait till the next high-profile case to happen and wait for whoever's involved, whether it's the FBI or the SEC or other three-letter agencies that can get something pushed all the way through to a court, right, to a trial date. We have to wait for that to happen after that point. Now, if it does result in some kind of a judgment against the named defendant, right? In this case, Nathan Chastain, then yeah, maybe we do see that there are more so-called copycat cases. The FBI feels emboldened and says, okay, now we can start saying this person's doing insider trading. We no longer have to just like try to get them on wire fraud and money laundering, right? Because that was their way in this time. In that DOJ press release, they kind of really focused on a lot of the attention on those two charges that they knew they could indict Nathan Chastain for. And they sort of said tangentially in that press release, like, oh, yeah, it's because he was doing insider trading. Most of retail is looking at it and thinking, okay, insider trading of what? JPEGs? Huh? They don't get it, is what I'm saying. They don't seem to get it the way that we get it. And the implications for DeFi, even the long-reaching implications for DeFi in a case like this, most people don't seem to understand that some of the standards used for these NFTs are technically the same standards that are used for providing liquidity on platforms like Uniswap. The tech stack is non-trivial, and the implications of this case are non-trivial. If, for example, this goes to a judgment, this may potentially open the floodgates for legislators in the future, or for lawmakers or for law enforcement, to go after entities that run decentralized exchanges but have a corporate structure to their organization. I mean that if you're providing liquidity on something that's kind of like Uniswap, but maybe it's got a commercial interest or some kind of a corporation behind it, you got that same type of NFT structure that's used to hold up your liquidity and used to hold up your balances in a locked up ledger with a token that you still control with your keys. So even though we have these like hybrid decentralization, or in some cases decentralized and name only platforms, it's going to cause a problem in the future for some of those. If this goes to a judgment, they successfully get him. So the implications, J-Chains, are far-reaching and very hard to predict. We think it's about just this platform and NFTs. We think it could just, affect some of our favorite NFT platforms. But I'm here to tell you, it goes way beyond that. DeFi as we know it could potentially really suffer if this goes the wrong way, or if these policymakers and if law enforcement agencies feel too emboldened to start going on a little witch hunt and trying to take their little, little bite out of everybody that's doing anything that has anything that resembles an NFT. So yes, and I'm a little worried. Not going to lie. This one actually has me worried.
All right. Well, it's a good thing that DeFi summer was last summer then, because that was a good summer. Mind your biz. Last question for you. See what you can do today. All right. How far out do you put us having Web3 built into the OS of not just Apple, but Microsoft and Android as well?
Okay, so you're asking for a general technologist futurist question here. Let me jump back real quick, answer the question that you didn't ask, but that is really, really important. Microsoft already beat Apple into blockchain with the number of people's wallets that have been hacked on Windows. They've already transferred millions of dollars worth of crypto. So Microsoft already beat Apple. I just want you to know that in terms of TVL, or total value lost, on their operating system. So Microsoft for the win there. But as far as like Apple app properly getting integration done, like say the way Brave browser has a wallet built into it, an Opera browser apparently now has a crypto wallet built into it, like sort of Web3 marrying Web 2. J-Chains, I don't know that we're ever going to see it, and I don't know that they're going to make it a priority. Apple is known. They've got a long, rich history of one thing and one thing only. I can summarize it in 3 letters. You guys ready? DRM. They're interested in locking down rights management. They're interested in locking down privileges. They're interested in licensing things from the traditional intellectual property owners. They're not interested in opening anything or using open source technologies and giving proper attribution. Case in point, 10-finger touch on their user interfaces that you saw on the iPads. That was open source a few years before. The kernel for Mac OS on your laptop or on your Mac Mini or whatever, that comes from a project called BSD, right? That comes out of an educational license for an open source desktop operating system. It's got more in common with Linux actually, or with server software, than it does with Microsoft Windows. And then the list just keeps on going on and on. When you go beyond their Darwin kernel and their user interface, getting kind of nerdy there. My point is, Apple is not your friend. If you think you're into open source, and if you're into cryptocurrencies, you are into open source. Apple is not your friend, and they have zero financial interest in making Web3 or cryptocurrencies a feature of their products. They're a lot like the central bankers, but of technological progress. They're used to being in charge. They're used to getting paid very, very well for trickling out the most milquetoast dog food features that they can possibly get you to pay for. So altcoin daily, I think it's great you're using an Android. I don't think you should ever upgrade to an iPhone because it's not an upgrade. They're just gatekeepers, right? They're gatekeepers of technology and features. And they have no interest in helping you live your best Web3 or your cryptocurrency life, which is why they haven't, to date, publicly announced doing anything for cryptocurrency, and why anybody who believes erroneously that these, Animoji, new Memoji things are going to somehow be related in a meaningful way to blockchain, I'm going to burst your bubble right now. This is my prediction. It will have nothing to do with any popular blockchain, not Ethereum, not Solana, not any of them, because Apple is so used to having full control. So if they do wind up having any kind of a bridge, it'll likely be built by a third party in the same way that you have to, you still have to download, MetaMask using the iTunes store to get blockchain to do anything meaningful on your iPhone today. It's going to be a similar experience. I mean, why would they do it when third parties are already doing it? And why would they let anybody trade permissionlessly when in stores like iTunes, they've been charging 30% plus to every creator that's ever posted anything there? They just won't. Full stop. Apple is not your friend. I don't see it ever happening unless there's a radical, existential threat applied to Apple, or there's some kind of, in some crazy, parallel universe, the federal government says, hey, as part of an antitrust investigation or suit, we're going to force you to be involved in blockchain. I don't see it happening any other way. J-Chains.
All right. Well, you heard that here. Apple is not your friend, but I can tell you one thing. Seth, Brad, Austin, Ben, you guys are my friends. You are friends of the community here that is crypto. Appreciate you guys being on the show today. Seth, you did score. Ben, I tried to give you the win today so bad because I never let Ben.
He just wouldn't stop talking.
I know. I was like, agreed. Anyway, so that means mind your biz.
Brad, thank you so much for your kind words. That's what I was going to end my statement with. Thank you for your kind words. We appreciate it. Now, Seth, take your time. He wins
so here's
every
my typical
time.
Sign off then. And my typical sign off, guys, thanks for having me. If you're not following everybody on the panel, obviously you saw why you should be. Everybody brings their own unique flavor. Everybody drops unique alpha, like Brad was saying, especially when the market is down. Appreciate you guys having me back on the show, and it is my pleasure, my privilege, and my honor to be here with you. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Thank you for watching Around the Blockchain tonight. We will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget to check out Frankie Candles. He's going live pretty soon, so hop on over, check him out, and we will see y'all tomorrow.
Awesome.
He wins every time. He wins every time. He wins every time. He wins every time.
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree.
Big dip energy.
Let's start with our first contestant on today's show, where, by the way, if you don't score the most points, you die. It's Mind Your Biz.